Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLune 3-pack screen protector plus 3-pack camera lens protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Olivo, today we're talking about a story that's got everyone in Europe on edge: Hungary's stance on Russia and Ukraine. Let's dive into it. Hungary's Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister Peter Szijjártó is making headlines with his country's decision to back the US-Russia deal despite EU threats. Olivo, according to Szijjártó, the only path to obtaining peace in Ukraine and ensuring Europe's security runs through a stable relationship between the United States and Russia. Now that might come as a surprise to some of you, especially considering President Trump's recent comments on Russia. But what's really interesting here is that Szijjártó sees this deal as a way forward for Central Europe, a region he says has a very clear historical experience that tells them when Americans and Russians work together, it leads to better security. On the other hand, if they fail to do so, Hungary is concerned about the consequences on its own security. So, Olivo, why does Szijjártó think this deal matters? He believes it's the only solution for peace in Ukraine, and that without it, he sees very limited hope for resolving the conflict. And get this, Szijjártó even claims that President Trump is the only one who can bring about a comprehensive American-Russian agreement. Now, not everyone agrees with Hungary's stance on this matter, particularly EU leaders like those from Poland. But what's striking here is that, while some are calling for tougher measures against Russia, others are skeptical of Trump's diplomatic efforts with Russian President Vladimir Putin, someone who has ties to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban as well. In fact, Olivo, Szijjártó says he thinks the White House overtures have been underestimated by Trump's detractors. He believes they're the ones responsible for adopting policies that have fueled the conflict rather than resolving it. And interestingly enough, there's a connection between this and something else entirely: Hungary's stance on energy supplies. It turns out that as long as EU countries cut off Russia's oil deliveries to Hungary, they'd be putting the entire country at risk due to its geography. This is because two of Hungary's main oil pipelines are led directly from Russia and Croatia, with the latter being part of a pipeline that was crucial in January when Kyiv refused to renew a decades-long gas transit agreement with Moscow. Meanwhile, Ukraine has been taking aim at kinetic action as well, striking Russian infrastructure involved in carrying oil to European nations like Hungary. Now, Olivo, Szijjártó's position on this matter has got him into hot water with EU leaders who accuse him of being the puppet of Putin and spies for Russia. He's also accused of undermining EU efforts. But here's the thing: Szijjártó believes that his stance is rooted in geography rather than politics or ideology. And Olivo, it seems he's got a lot of support from some Western politicians, like Marco Rubio, who said something similar about respecting geography in their discussions with him. Now, while we might think this is just about Hungary and its energy supplies, it's actually part of a much bigger story. There are divisions between Hungary and EU leadership that run even deeper than opposing views on the war in Ukraine itself. The Brussels-based bloc has censured Budapest, freezing funds, and demanding fines over domestic policies like asylum seekers and LGBTQ+ communities. Szijjártó sees an ally in Trump when it comes to this stance, calling their approach Hungary first and Make Hungary Great Again. He believes that both share a similar vision for solving global dilemmas. And here's the catch: Szijjártó argues that what they're doing is a rational, anti-mainstream policy that's been successful so far. But Olivo, there are some who disagree with this approach, saying it's based on extremist liberal ideas. They believe that EU leaders should take extreme measures to suppress right-wing movements and sideline those who oppose the mainstream agenda. For Szijjártó, however, this is a natural reaction to a very extremist liberal agenda that's been taking hold in Europe. And then there's Hungary's economic strategy, one that seeks to maintain economic neutrality as it navigates an increasingly multipolar world. Olivo, according to Szijjártó, when he competes for Chinese investments, his competitors are Western European countries who end up complaining about the heavy presence of Chinese capital once they lose those competitions. So, Olivo, what does this all mean? Well, It's clear that Hungary is not going to back down from its stance on Russia and Ukraine. But while some see it as a threat, others believe there's value in exploring alternative relationships beyond Western Europe. And one thing's for sure, the situation here is far from settled.